Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. My name is Crown and today we are going to have some more stories that I hope that you will enjoy. But before we start, it would be so much appreciated if you would subscribe to the channel, like the video if you enjoyed it, and maybe leave a comment down below. These simple clicks would mean a lot to the future of this channel and really reward the effort that I put in every day. And now, without further ado, let's go! First story. Money-demanding entitled mother gets what she's owed. This is an update to a story we read a few months ago. A quick rundown on what's happened so far. I'm a 21 male and my mother got together with a rich dude, got pregnant twice and tried to pass it off as my dad's kids before they got divorced when I was 10. I got money from my grandpa that was originally meant for 3 of us, but obviously I was the only actual grandchild, so he said screw you, when she still expected it. Years go by and my half-sister is going to college but cannot work a normal job for spending money, so they harassed me twice and all I've offered was a wad of used Joe and tobacco before telling them to get lost. That sums it up nicely, I think, so on with the story. I'm in the shop getting the tractor ready with the silage blade on because we're going to have a contractor come in and chop sorghum and some corn for cattle feed. I've got Hank Williams Jr. playing in the background, open can of Miller Lite within arm's reach and just in a good mood all around. Then I hear a knock on the door and turn to see my mom's husband at the door. He asks if we can talk and I really hope he's not wanting me to give money or be a blood sacrifice at a cult meeting. Instead, he brings me news. We'll call him a nice guy from now on. Because he actually isn't all that bad. He asks, "Can we talk for a minute?" "Sure, why not? Come on in. I won't eat you." "Oh, that's reassuring. I think you should know I'm leaving your mother." "Damn, sorry to hear that. There is a bar in the corner. Would you like me to make you a happy farmer?" "I appreciate the offer, but I don't drink before I've had my supper. I slowly hide my beer since it's 9 in the morning." Then he adds, "Besides, it feels like a weight lifted off my shoulders." "Well, that's good. What made you realize she wasn't the one though?" "The spending. And then when I tell her no, she breaks down until I spend more money. Sounds like the Volkswagen I got in the garage. Breaks down often and costs more money than what it's worth." "That's a way of putting it, yeah. So the final straw was she wanted to go to London and apparently she's got an obsession with all things British after watching The Crown." I tell him, "Yeah, she probably hoped to be the queen since I hear they are in need of a new one. Obviously she wouldn't get the royal crown, but she could be the queen of the chavs with her makeup and spray tan." "Yeah, maybe." After months of badgering on her end, I said alright, I'll get tickets. But instead, I came back home with divorce papers. And how did that go? Well, she cried and screamed but eventually packed her things and left. She's staying at her cousin's house for now and is having a divorce lawyer come for me. I think she forgot how prenups work. I'm not sure. So basically she's screwed. How about my sister? She wanted money so she didn't have to work, but I turned her down. Well, I get angry calls and texts from her daily. That it isn't right and stuff like that. She has to work in a Walmart while taking college classes. I thought that was normal stuff, like paying taxes and all. Yeah, I guess. How about my brother? Is he messed up or somewhat okay? I don't know really. He started selling dab pens and doing DoorDash because he wants to be like this one guy Andrew Tate someday. So I can't say for sure. I really hate to be the one breaking this to you, but he's an incel, plain and simple, no maidens for him. Huh. Well, I thought you should know about the situation, in case she shows up for money since I cut her off financially. Oh, don't worry about me. If she shows up, I'll put her in a feedlot and fatten her up before I take her to the auction. Oh, and by the way, what happened to her car? Already returned to the dealership. I didn't need it and I wasn't going to let her keep it. But anyways, I'll be out now because 18 holes won't play themselves. After that he left and I finished my beer thinking about how she's in trouble now. I also thought about going to harass my sister at work but decided against it. That's it hopefully, but I can't be certain. Next story. Entitled Landlady Breaks Into My House and Gets Me Swatted. This happened over the span of December 2020 to mid-June 2021. I was renting an apartment in a low-income neighborhood when a new property manager was hired. The first day I met her, she tried to ban me from having guests in my house and told me every guest in my house was hereby trespassing from the property. My guests were friends of mine who were current residents of the complex. I told her to never contact me again and to only contact me through my lawyer and slammed the door in her face. About a month later, I caught her on film breaking into my house and she repeatedly refused to leave, stating that because she's a landlady, she has a right to be in my house whenever she wants for as long as she wants. I again told her to leave and warned her this was her last warning and took a step closer to her, which made her leave. She proceeded to call the police on me for threatening her. I showed them the video and that was that. She took me to eviction court and lied to the judge, stating that I stabbed another resident when in fact the other resident stabbed me. She also sued for destruction of property. When the judge asked her what property I destroyed, she launched into a long and full story about how I flipped my furniture in my house. Yes, she actually tried to sue me for supposedly destroying my own property. Fast forward a couple of months and I caught her opening my door without warning. I stood in the doorway and asked her, "Can I help you?" And she told me that my water heater was leaking and maintenance needed to come in and fix it. I told her he can come in, but you need to get the hell out. She stormed in anyway, and in retaliation called the sheriff's department and lied to them, saying that I was heavily armed and threatened her, which resulted in me getting swatted. I ended up moving out because of this, but I ended up getting her fired a few months later. I told my friends about everything she did and they decided to be on the lookout for any action of hers that could bring her to court. And not a month after I moved out, my friends sued her for illegally withholding their security deposits, framing them for damages to their apartment that she actually caused, harassment, and a few other things. And she is now actively being investigated for her illegal activity. Next story. That one time an intended revenge almost crash-landed an airplane. This story belongs to my beautiful wife, but since it is from many decades ago, from a time before we knew each other, we will here call her Classy Flight Attendant. The setup. The Classy Flight Attendant is at this time one of the top-tier flight attendants for her country's national airline. Of course, as with any job, you meet all kinds at work. Today's story concerns one particular pilot who we will call Captain Ricardo, Captain Jerk for short, and Captain Jerk likes things the way he likes them. He wants all the flight attendants in his flight crew to be attractive women. He doesn't think men should be flight attendants. He doesn't think ugly people, by his definition, should be flight attendants. He is not ashamed to mock or ridicule people who he feels have no business in the job. Of course, no matter how Captain Jerk wants things, the staffing of the entire airline does not revolve around his wishes. He gets the crew he gets, like it or not. The crime. On the occasion in question, one of the flight attendants assigned to Captain Jerk's crew is so spectacularly unattractive to him that he picks up the intercom on a plane while the crew is preparing the flight and asks who thought that she would ever be attractive enough to fly for him. He follows that with all sorts of jeers and name-calling, finally going so far as to order security to physically remove her from the plane. She departs in tears and does not fly with Captain Jerk that day. Well, this is just too much. When a number of flight attendants get together later, they discuss Captain Jerk. He needs to be reminded how much he relies on his flight crew. They are not there just to please his ego. They serve an important function in the operation of the plane and the airline. The classy flight attendant is there and notes that she will be on a long flight with Captain Jerk in a couple days. She knows what needs to be done, but tells the other ladies that the less they know, the better. The Revenge. On the day of that flight, she arrives early and seeks assignment to the cockpit. On long flights on a jumbo jet, there is one flight attendant who attends only to the cabin crew, the pilot, co-pilot, and engineer, so that they can focus on successfully executing the flight. As per normal, Captain Jerk will only allow an attractive female flight attendant to serve in that function. The classy flight attendant is classy enough for him and is easily accepted. After they have been in the air a while, the cockpit asks for food, which she happily prepares for them. She has a special ingredient for Captain Jerk's meal. While she cannot know in advance what the main dish provided today will be, it is known that Captain Jerk always wants beans and rice with every meal, and this meal is no exception. She grates chocolate-flavored laxatives in Captain Jerk's beans and mixes it in. She knows he only needs a dose or two to do the trick, but figures the flavor will be off, so he won't eat much and wants to make sure he gets a dose or two. So in the whole box goes. And this is where it all goes wrong. Too much revenge? He notices but does not suspect. He likes the flavor. He even comments while enjoying his meal that it has such a particularly good flavor. Classy flight attendant smiles and then watches in horror as he downs a plate. She had no contingency plan for this. Things do not take long. About 20 minutes later, Captain Jerk starts to look a little green around the gills, and then run to the restroom, and then again, but it doesn't stop. At a certain point, he stops running back and forth and remains in the restroom, leaving the fly-in of the plane to the co-pilot. But now, several hours later, the classy flight attendant is getting really worried. She has overplayed her hand. It turns out this co-pilot is not rated to land this plane. There is only one person on board who is, and as they are approaching their destination, that person has not left the restroom for an hour or two. If the co-pilot is forced to land, it will easily result in a crash landing or an overshoot of the runway. He will come in too fast and not hit the runway soon enough, plowing through whatever he hits before being able to stop. The plane will be destroyed. People will be injured and possibly killed. People and property on the ground is not safe either. For all she knows, Captain Jerk is already dead in the bathroom, and she's seriously concerned about all the potential repercussions. The last half hour of the flight is horror compound with guilt for classy flight attendant. At the key moment, Captain Jerk re-emerges and heroically brings the plane in for a successful landing, regardless of the damage done to his dignity and the captain's chair. He may have treated his flight crews poorly, but he's a first-rate pilot. Paramedics remove him in a stretcher from the plane before the passengers are disembarked, and he spent several days in the hospital recovering. The aftermath. On his return to work, he is much more humble and no longer verbally abusive. He is a much better captain to work with. It is unclear if any effort was ever made to investigate the matter, and it is suspected that those who may have been charged with such an investigation shared a similarly negative opinion of Captain Jerk's previous behavior and felt like he had it coming. The other flight attendants and some of their supervisors have no doubt about what happened, although it was not generally known by them how close the flight had come to being a complete disaster. Next story. 20+ year revenge. The best revenge is living well. I grew up in a white trash town where bachelor parties were a big deal. Basically, a keg or two in a field on someone's land with a bunch of drugs. During my junior year of high school, a few guys in their early 20s crashed one of the parties and were being creepy with the girls and aggressive with the guys. It was 100% a high school party, and they were definitely not wanted or invited. I got asked to try and get them to leave and went with a couple friends to try and run them off, and it did not go well. Ended was a classic pro-off where we were all talking nonsense, pumping chests, and threatening each other. Very cringy in retrospect. Nothing came of it and I thought they were leaving. 10 to 15 minutes later, lights out. Sucker punched. The guy waited till I was alone and ran up on me and completely destroyed me with a punch I never saw coming. Then he got on top of me and hit me many times until my friends ran over and stopped him. I was surprisingly okay, but my teeth were pretty chipped up. It is not super noticeable, but I notice. And my jaw still doesn't align 100% right. Anyway, it's been 23 years since then. I am married, beautiful wife, baby, house, car, job, live in a great neighborhood in Austin. Everything's wonderful. I'm filling up at a gas station one day, and the dude who sucker punched me walks down the sidewalk. Homeless, a junkie, a complete loser. I am positive it's him because I'm friends with his sister on Facebook and had seen pictures of him somewhat recently. He has a very identifiable face tattoo. I call his name out, he looks at me and I smile. My wife's in the passenger seat of the car. Our nice car. In our safe, perfect neighborhood with our daughter in the back. How's it going, man? Been a while. He recognized me. Looks at me like I'm an alien from another planet. A ghost from a different lifetime. He says nothing. I smile, a genuine warm smile, and tell him, "See ya, be well." And I get into my car and drive home. The best revenge is living well. And now we have reached the end of today's stories. Thank you for watching and see you next time.